Hello everyone. It is time for science. We are going to do a science experiment. I am not sure if y'all are going to be able to do this at home if y'all don't have the materials needed, but I figured we can do the science experiment together. Now this science experiment does take about a month to complete, so that is something that we will go ahead and kind of look at on a weekly basis. Uh, as y'all know, science is always kind of testing out new ideas. So we have a question that we ask all the time at the very beginning of our science experiment. And this week, we are learning about the spread of germs. So as you know, we are at home for the foreseeable future because of the coronavirus. And the coronavirus is a germ. Well, it's a virus that is spread through the air by people who are infected when they cough or sneeze, and it either lands on you or lands on, the surface of something, maybe the countertop or a box, and then you get that germ on your hand, and you end up touching your mouth or touching your eye, or touching your nose, and that germ, those corona germs, get into your body. So we are looking at the spread of germs today, kind of see what good hygiene can do to help us out. So today's science experiment is called the spread of germs. And many people around the world are sick with the coronavirus now. Germs spread the coronavirus from person to person. Germs are very tiny particles that can only be seen with a microscope. So we can't see the germs that are all over the place. People cannot see where germs are or how they move from person to person. But coronavirus germs can spread when sick people cough or sneeze or talk or touch something. Germs can spread when sick people shake hands with healthy people. They can spread when sick people have germs on their hands and touch surfaces and objects. When healthy people touch those same surfaces and objects, the germs can move to the healthy person, making them sick too. So think about if you have paint on your hands. You're done with art class, but you have paint on your hands and that paint is not dry. You go and touch a table, and then your friend sitting right next to you touches that same spot. That paint is going to get on their hands. That's kind of what we do when we are transferring or moving germs from our hands to the table or our hands to a box, and then someone else touches that same area. That's why it's important for us to learn healthy habits. Healthy habits are things like washing your hands regularly and well. So you may want to put your hands underwater and just rinse them off a little bit. No, that doesn't work. You have to use soap and scrub real good to make sure all those germs are off your hands. So promoting healthy habits can help stop the spread of coronavirus germs. All right, so what do we know? So we always know things when we start science. We know that the coronavirus spreads from person to person. It spreads from one person who's infected to other people who aren't infected. We know that washing your hands with soap and water can help stop the coronavirus. Washing your hands can get rid of germs, dirt, and more. Washing your hands can get rid of mold spores too. If you wash your hands really good, you're going to clean those hands. Now, mold spores grow to become mold. And I think we've all seen mold before. Sometimes when you don't throw away bread that needs to be thrown away, and that green fuzzy stuff starts growing on it. So our question today, remember, in science, it's not a science experiment unless we want to know the answer to a question. So our question today is, which bread will grow the least amount of mold? Which bread will grow the least amount of mold? And so we're going to make a guess or a hypothesis. So a hypothesis is just a guess, and this guess does not have to be right. Scientists hope a lot of times that their hypothesis is not right, because that gives them another place to look when they're doing their experiments. So our guess or hypothesis today can be one of 5 things. Do you think that bread that has not been touched by anything will grow the least amount of mold? Do you think if you have dirty hands and those hands touch the bread, that will grow the least amount of mold? Do you think if you wash your hands with soap and water, that will grow the least amount of mold? Do you think if you use hand sanitizer and hand sanitize your hands and then pick up the bread, will that bread grow the least amount of mold? Or you think if we place the bread on a table or a countertop and rub it on the table or countertop, then pick it up, do you think that will grow the least amount of mold? So those are our hypothesis or guesses. And I'll pause right here to let you make that guess or hypothesis. All right. So for science, there are things that we need. There's always things that we need when we perform a science experiment. So for our science experiment today, we need a set of tongs. These are kitchen tongs. We're going to use these to hold the bread. We need 5 slices of white bread. I have a new loaf of white bread. We're going to use 5 slices of this bread. We need 5 Ziploc gallon-sized bags that are labeled. So here I have our labeled bags. 3, 4, 5. So this one says washed hands. This one says not touched. This one says from the table. This one says hand sanitizer hands, using hand sanitizer. And this one says dirty hands. So those are our 5 bags that we're going to use to put our 5 pieces of bread in. We need some soap. We need some warm water, because when you wash your hands, you're washing your hands with soap and warm water. We need some hand sanitizer. This stuff is like liquid gold right now. And we need a table. But I'm not going to use just any table. Today, I'm going to make sure that it's a really dirty table and a table that we really don't want to touch. So I'm going to go out into the garage and use a trash can lid. That's going to be a nice dirty table. It's not a table that we eat on, but it is a flat surface. And that way we can see what might be on that flat surface. All right, so those are our needs. Go ahead and get those out if you need to. All right, so we're going to start our experiment. So our experiment is going to be a series of steps. That's what an experiment is. We want to control everything possible with only one thing different. And the one thing that's different today is how we touch our bread. Do we not touch it at all? Do we touch it with dirty hands? Do we touch it with clean hands that have been washed? Do we touch it with hands that have been hand sanitized? Or do we rub it all over the trash can lid? That is called our variable. And to do any good science experiment, you have to control everything except one variable. So, for our experiment, we're going to start out with the bag that says, do not touch. Do not touch. All right, so it says, using tongs, carefully put one bread slice into the bag labeled not touched. All right, so we've got the bread that was not touched in our baggie. And that's what we wanted. All right, so here we go. Now we need a hand that has not been cleaned. So I'm going to ask my son, Aiden, to come over here. He is going to help out. I'm going to move that. And he is going to help out with us. I don't think he's washed his hands in a while. I've washed my hands here and there today. I'm not sure if he's washed his hands yet. So we're going to let him hold our bread. Hold our bread. Touch it, feel it, don't squish it. Kind of rub your hands on it. Yeah, there we go. All right. So, we're going to place it in the bag now. All right, so he has rubbed his hands all over this bread and placed it in the bag. So maybe that one's going to grow some mold, or maybe it's not. Who knows? We'll find out. All right, so our next piece is, done that, he's going to go over and wash his hands with soap and water for 20 seconds.
Wash your hands, do-do-do-do-do, wash your hands, do-do-do-do-do, wash your hands, do-do-do-do-do, wash your hands. Grab some soap, do-do-do-do-do, grab some soap, do-do-do-do-do, grab some soap, do-do-do-do-do, grab some soap. Rub your hands, do-do-do-do-do, rub your hands, do-do-do-do-do, rub your hands, do-do-do-do-do, rub your hands. Rinse your hands, do-do-do-do-do, rinse your hands, do-do-do-do-do, rinse your hands, do-do-do-do-do, rinse your hands.
think he's a little bit behind on the song, or in front of the song.
We do.
All right, so hold on. We're going to pause right here, and we can edit. All right, so he has washed his hands. His hands are all washed, and that's a good thing. All right, so he has washed his hands, and everything is good. So now he's going to take some, I'm going to take some tongs. I'm going to get a piece of bread. He's going to hold on to it, rub his hands on that bread. All right, very nice job. All right, so he has his bread in here. So this is the bread where he's washed his hands for 20 seconds. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let him go back to doing what he has been doing. Thank you very much for your help. All right, so we're back. Now I'm going to use some hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer kind of kills all the germs on your hand. I'm going to rub that in really well, making sure that my hands have all been cleaned, the touch from our hand sanitizer. I'm going to reach in, I'm going to grab this piece right here, this piece of bread, and I'm touching it like my son did. So both sides have been touched. And now I'm going to place it in our bag. All right, so here is our last piece of bread. And as I said, I was going to place it on the trash can lid. So it's not a table, the trash can lid. So here we go. Right on the trash can lid. As you can see, it's on that trash can lid. I'm going to kind of push around. Remember, trash cans really don't get cleaned very often, do they? I'll put it on the inside where it's nice and dirty, where it's probably never been cleaned before. Ooh, and it's nice and wet too. Woo. So that piece of bread has probably got all sorts of germs on it. All right, so I have our bags not touched, the dirty hands, washed hands, hand sanitizer hands, and from the trash can lid hands. So we're going to see, we've got to wait for about a month, and I will try different things. I will post pictures online, may take a couple of videos once a week. Today is Thursday, April the 2nd, 2020. So come back in a week and I may have a video for us. Now remember, there is data that we need to organize. So as we continue on with this experiment, we need to look at this data. So the questions we're asking are, did each slice of bread look the same at the start of the experiment? So when I pulled them out of the bag, out of the bread bag, did they all look the same? Yes or no? Yeah, they all looked the same, didn't they? Did some slices of bread look different by the end of the experiment? That is our question that we're asking. So we'll have to come back in a month and see if the bread looks any different. And then we're going to ask, what did some bread slices grow? Did it grow dirt? Did it grow mold? Or did it grow trees? After we look and collect our data, we move on to our conclusion. And so our conclusion questions are, did some bread grow more mold than others? Yes or no? Which bread grew the least amount of mold? Remember, that was our question that we were asking. Which bread grew the least amount of mold? So that's going to be the answer to our question that we asked at the very beginning of our science lesson. And then, of course, was your guess correct? Remember, it's okay if your guess is not correct. Scientists are fine having guesses that are not correct. So don't get upset if your guess was not correct. So I will see you back here in about a week on Thursday, where I make another video showing how our bread has either grown mold or hasn't grown mold at all. I will see you later.